Raise your right hand if you will. Do you swear or affirm to? Do we swear these witnesses here? Forgive me. Have I been doing that? Yeah, you know what? I'm confused. Lynn, have we sworn you before? I don't think so. I
can tell you everything I say will be the truth.
No,
so,
lest you slip, you do not need to do that. I'm in the wrong commission meeting. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Rankin. Members of the subcommittee, it's an honor to be here with you today on a very pressing matter as it relates to our very own democracy. I'm Joe Cunningham, and from early 2019 to just earlier this year, I had the great honor of representing the 1st Congressional District in the United States Congress. And I've got to tell you that representing the 1st Congressional District was, it was the greatest honor in my life. And throughout my service, I got to know the 1st Congressional District very well. And the history, the people, the communities, big and small, black and white, wealthy and working class. And I know firsthand how important representation really is. And I drove here this morning from Charleston to tell you something that you already know, which is that the proposed map today, particularly the 1st Congressional District, stinks. It's terrible. It is. I want to make sure they can hear me, though. Well, okay. I want to make sure everybody can hear me because this is important. The maps are awful. They are just, they make no sense unless, of course, the sole purpose of these maps is to make it harder for a Republican to lose. See, 10 years ago, this body intentionally drew the 1st District to make it virtually impossible for a Democrat to win. And although the district, has always been based in Charleston, this body made sure that the significant black population would be packed into the 6th Congressional District. And despite the incredible diversity of Charleston County, you all made sure that the 1st was almost entirely white, thus a safe Republican district. Well, until 2018, when I became the 1st Democrat to win that district in 40 years. And despite the district being designed intentionally so that a Democrat could not win, I was able to win a district that Donald Trump carried by 13 points. And just last year, I lost it by a single point in one of the closest elections in the entire country. Now let's face it, the folks in Washington, D.C. really don't like competition. They don't like close races. They want safe elections. They want reliable elections. They want to make sure that what happened in 2018 in the 1st Congressional District never, ever happens again, even if they have to cheat or rig the system to make sure that happens. In my time as a candidate and as a member of Congress, I saw up close and personal how the district was just chopped up based upon one thing: race. You could drive down Chapel Street, the old district boundary, the current district boundary right now, and look on one side and see African-American community, and the other side, see a white community. The white community was in the 1st Congressional District, and the black community was in the 6th Congressional District. You could not draw it any clearer than driving down Chapel Street. And I thought that was the best at gerrymandering. But lo and behold, I'm surprised. Because look, if gerrymandering was an art, this proposed plan would be a Picasso. You all have taken it to the nth degree. I just want to drop in some highlights here. Despite all that diversity in the Lowcountry, this plan gives the 1st Congressional District the lowest black population of any district in the state. It takes the College of Charleston out of the 1st Congressional District. This is supposed to be the Lowcountry District, and the College of Charleston has been removed. The only thing left of the peninsula in Charleston is the nearly all-white million-dollar homes south of Broad. That's all that's been left. You took out most of Johns Island. That's an area that's rich in civil rights history for significant black population, but mysteriously kept nearly all white Kiowa and Seabrook Islands. I wonder why. For For some reason, the 1st District does not represent an entire county. When I represented the 1st District, I had 5 parts of 5 different counties. And now under these proposed maps, there's 6 parts of 6 different counties. Because why not? Just throw a 6th in there. No one can look at this map with a straight face and say that it makes any sense. Nobody. Nobody can look at it honestly and say that it makes any sense and say that it's good for our democracy. This map only spurs questions. Questions like, why are suburban Mount Pleasant and West Ashley in 2 different districts? Why is Charleston County split into 2 different districts? One for white residents and one for black residents. Why are the College of Charleston and the University of South Carolina, which are separated by over 100 miles, in the same congressional district? We know why. Everyone here knows why. Everyone on this committee knows why. Because the people who drew this map, it's just a game. It's just a political game, and it's just about winning. Because 10 years ago, this body drew a safe Republican district, and by the end of the decade, it became a swing district. And this proposed map moves the goalpost yet again to make it as hard as possible for a Democrat to win. I'm here asking today, why are you so afraid of competition? I'm not asking you to draw a Democratic district. I'm asking you to draw a district that makes sense. Because this map makes no sense unless your sole objective is to rig an election so that one side cannot win. I don't know who drew this map. But I know one thing. It wasn't any of you. This map, it wasn't any of your staff either. This map was drawn by a partisan hack in Washington, D.C. That's who it's drawn by. Somebody with the help of incumbent members of Congress to make themselves safer. People hell-bent on serving themselves instead of serving the people they're elected to represent. I'd ask you to listen to the people in the 1st Congressional District, not some partisan hack from Washington, D.C. who could care less about South Carolina. I'm asking you to put your country, put your state above your own political party. Do what's right, rip up this map, and start over by using the input that you solicited across this state. This map is not even worth the paper that it's printed on. And I'd say that if you want a majority so bad in the United States House of Representatives, go earn it. Go win it with your policy ideas. Go win it with your vision. But don't cheat and don't steal. I can tell you that when I left Congress earlier this year, our country has never been more divided. And there's a lot of reasons to point to that. But partisan gerrymandering, the process that each of you are engaged in today, is a big part of it. It's ripping our country apart at the fabric. It's why we're more divided than ever. And for decades, legislators have bent over backwards to eliminate competitive congressional districts and create safe districts where it's impossible to lose a general election. And what's been the result? You have a Congress that cannot function. And I've seen it. I have lived it. You got the far left and you got the far right up there in Washington, D.C., trying to tackle some of our country's most pressing problems, but yet they cannot even agree on what day it is. Working across the aisle for members of Congress has become a 4-letter word because the only thing they have to worry about is winning a primary, and the results of general elections are predetermined. When I represented the 1st District, I can't tell you how many people came up to me and said, I feel like my vote doesn't even matter. Why vote? Why should I vote? Why should I partake in democracy when I feel like the die has been cast? And you know what? They have a damn good point. When you look at these congressional maps and these lines that have been drawn by a partisan hack in Washington, D.C. and released to the general public hours before Thanksgiving break with a public hearing called hours after Thanksgiving break ends, the whole process reeks. South Carolinians deserve a hell of a lot better. You've got 2 options. You can pour kerosene on the fire, that's up in Washington, D.C., the dumpster fire that exists, because nobody can leave this committee room and condemn the partisanship in Washington, D.C., and at the same time put the stamp of approval on partisan gerrymandering that lays before us. Can't do that. You can watch the parties continue to move to the extremes, to the far left, to the far right, and nothing gets done, and our infrastructure crumbles. All healthcare prices go up. All the problems that we need to get solved go ignored. Or you can simply ignore the partisan hacks in Washington, D.C. You can say the hell with what they want and focus on what the people of South Carolina want. Fair maps. Keeping communities of interest together, not dividing communities based upon the color of their skin. Not packing black voters into one district. The future of this country, the future of this state, and our politics rest entirely in your hands. And I'd beg that you handle it with care. I yield back.
All right, questions of Mr. Cunningham, Representative Cunningham? Otherwise, yes, ma'am.
Just a couple of questions. Joe, you know we've had to work together a lot for the better of South Carolina many times. But I listened to our cartographer talk, and yes, you're exactly correct as it relates to the scheduling and timing. I want you to know that as a member of this subcommittee, and I've tried to be present and work with the committee as much as possible, I was not involved in the preparation of this map at all. No input into the 6 counties that I've represented over the years. Because the first glaring problem that I see is, yes, we went to public hearings. And in my area, I paid much, much more attention. If you look down at the bottom of the map where it refers to Sun City in Jasper County, and that leads from Hilton Head. We heard it over and over when we went there that Sun City, the area that includes Palmetto Bluffs, Margaritaville, all of those areas down there, even though they're a Jasper County per se, they felt